once we have surrendered, having recognized the depth and breadth of the Spanda principle, and released ourselves over to that experience, having been committed to and seized hold of and taken possession of, and further being possessed by, we have the experience. In the text it says both the sun and the moon set, following the ascending way into the channel of the Sushumna. Once abandoned, the sphere of the universe, the Sushumna, once abandoned the sphere of the universe. Then, in that great sky, when the sun and the moon dissolve away, the dull-minded yogi is cast down into a state of deep sleep. The awakened, however, remain completely lucid. So it brings up the topic of the breath of life, which I mentioned to you earlier, which manifests itself in 3 dimensions in a human being. Those 3 dimensions, first of all, the breath of life in its universal form is called Prana Kundalini. That as it condenses itself into a individual or individuated subject is called Chitta Kundalini. So all the Shaktis, all the different goddesses, all the different forms of the main goddess and all the sub-goddesses like. You have Parvati, you have the 10 Mahavidyas, which are various different states of Parvati. Then you have, from those 10 Mahavidyas, one of them is Mahakala, who pours forth from herself many different forms of Kali, principally 5, but there are many different forms of Kali, etc., and so forth. All of these different goddesses, individuated beings, created by, forms of Chitta Kundalini, filled with awareness and vibrancy that are essentially the structure of the mental and physical universe. When I say mental universe, the subtle resonance has taken form as particles and become light, and that light becomes structured as information, and at that point, information itself is considered to have its own intelligence, and it is a goddess, one of a subset of goddesses of Chitta Kundalini. That power, that Chitta Kundalini, exists within human beings as the foundation of our cognitive and perceptual capacity. Specific but not limited to us. This is sort of our capacity, intrinsic in Chitta Kundalini is our capacity to connect from ourselves, to have some kind of conscious interaction with, a dimension of the universe more subtle than our physical body and our individuated physical being. So, and finally, there is Prana Kundalini, the breath of life that is the very foundation, the core of individual human life. And that Prana Kundalini manifests in trees and plants and animals. It manifests in human beings. In human beings, it manifests as the energy within the subtle fluctuation of the cerebral spinal fluid and the lymphatics, which is one dimension of the three-phase respiratory mechanism that is at the core of physiological existence. So the last sutra in the first section of the Spanda Karikas is intended to discuss the fusion of the three breaths. And that has two significances. Okay, the sun and the moon refer to two energy flows within a human being. And those flows are the inflow and the outflow. Those flows are information coming into us and activity extending from us. The sun and the moon. The lunar channel absorbs, it takes in energy and brings it to the core of the deepest level of our being, where, we talked earlier today about expansion and contraction. We talked about the breath of life. We talked about Kalis, and in the Krama tradition, the Kalis and the process of cognition. So, the lunar channel brings in our environment, internalizes our environment. The solar channel externalizes our adaptation to that environment in an ongoing respiratory process. A respiratory process that is supported by the cerebral fluctuation of the cerebral spinal fluid and the lymphatics, the cardiopulmonary respiratory mechanism, and the eating and digesting and pooping respiratory mechanism. I don't know a better word for that right off the bat, but we'll have a contest. Name that respiratory mechanism. Three-phase respiratory mechanism that is powered by, that is a physiological demonstration of what? Spanda. Spanda. Respiratory processes, that's what Spanda is. And the Spanda power, because it is the power of life itself, because life itself, the whole universe, is one integrated living event. It has the unlimited and total freedom and capacity to express itself in all the ways that could possibly ever be imagined and more. And the basic mechanism by which we understand our own total identity with that living being that is the essence of, life itself, is by beginning to attune ourselves to be aware of, to connect to and align ourselves with and flow in, the power of Spanda as it flows in us. And the next thing is, the thing about Agama, revelation, is, even though I can tell you about this and I can direct your attention to it, you have to realize this. And this realization is a revelation that happens from within you when you, because of your commitment, because you actually make the effort, when you start to tune into yourself and hold your awareness in that lucid state long enough that the Spanda processes just jump up out of you and say, here I am, and I have always been here. And if I wasn't here, neither would you be. right? It is present within us, or we don't exist. Or, I mean, if it weren't present within us, we can't even talk about existence or non-existence. It just wouldn't. But it is because we practice, because we attune ourselves to the presence of Spanda in all of its frequencies and multidimensionality from within ourselves through our practice that this revelation takes place. And you say to yourself, as I once said to me, thank God. What a relief. I am not, I am the responsible party here, but it's not on my head. What happens is not on my head. And to the degree that I am able to realize the power of Spanda from within myself is the degree to which the unimaginable possibility becomes nurtured and manifest as our life, and the quality of our experience, the beauty and the joy that we are able to perceive as ongoing an experience, as ongoing within and around us, is profoundly transformed. And it's not like, we look out and see everything is beautiful in its own way. I hate that. It just pisses me off. What I'm trying to say to you is, seeing beauty doesn't always mean seeing things the way we want them to be. Seeing beauty in the way things actually are is really the essence of the experience of revelation. Seeing beauty in the extraordinary processes that are constantly going on around us that will, in some sense, really profoundly probably change our lives profoundly in our lifetime. Seeing beauty in it, seeing beauty in ourselves and bringing that to our daily experience, is really sort of what reality is about. We're not here trying to make stuff up or just see things the way we want to see them. We're trying to see things the way they are and understand however it is totally grounded in the dynamic processes set in motion by the ultimate creative capacity in the universe. Having that revelation, having Spanda rise up and grab you on the nose and say, here I am and this is my power, will happen when the incoming and the outgoing energies become stabilized in us because of our awareness of the three-phase respiratory mechanism that we are, and the subtle breath within the breath that is Prana Kundalini, that as these two, apna and prana and apna, become stabilized and become steady, then we see into that dynamic process, its underpinning, which otherwise we don't because our senses are muddied by all the motion. We see into that underpinning the subtle Kundalini power that is operating, that is the very source of our individual life. And further, if we hold that thought, if we are able to, and here he's saying, continuously pay attention, what we will see is that inside the breath, there is yet another breath, which is Chitta Kundalini. And the recognition of that breath within the breath and its impact on previously aforementioned systems, You know? That recognition extends the capacity of our, individual ability to hold an attunement to our larger environment and experience all kinds of new information, to experience, the various spiritual beings that populate our environment. Then we have overcome the resistance of the Bhuchari Devis to our sadhana. And then it's slowly, stage by stage, or for some lucky people, all at once in a flash, this revelation happens and everything just becomes clear as can be. Bam!